All right, so we're on module 2, and I believe we're in week 3, maybe 4, whatever the case may be. I will spend a little bit. I mean, it's actually probably going to only be a week. It won't be a 2-week turnaround for this, but it is going to be a large homework assignment for you guys that will probably not be, definitely will not be completed by the next subject, which is products and services. Here we're going to talk about your products, your services, and how to price them. Make sure you can figure out what your profit is. It's a couple of exercises that are going to be very important. Um, so look forward to that next week. But this week I'm going to be giving you, like I said, a large homework assignment, and I'll get to that in a minute. So let's start. This is Module 2, Policies and Procedures. What are policies and procedures? It's so key that you get this definition because it's important to the business and the success of the business. Policies and procedures go hand in hand, but are not interchangeable. A policy is a set of general guidelines that outline the organization's plan for tackling an issue. Policies communicate the connection between the organization's vision and values and its day-to-day operations. A procedure explains a specific action plan for carrying out the policy. Procedures tell employees how to deal with the situation and when. Using your policies and procedures together give employees a well-rounded view of their workplace. They know the type of culture that the organization is striving for and what type of behavior is expected of them and how to achieve both of these. So, short term, your actual policy is an outline of how things should be handled, and the procedure are the specific steps to complete and carry out that policy. Everybody get that?
Yes.
Okay, so let's get
Yes.
started. You should have 2 manuals. You should have your procedure manual and your policy manuals. Your policy manuals and your procedure manuals should be held in the utmost confidence because your competition can get a hold of your basic standard operating procedures and copy it to make their business run better. And that happened to me. I had a girl inside my office, and she had a friend that I didn't know about that worked inside my biggest competitor's office. And every procedure we developed and implemented, she shared it with her friend. And a counselor who sent us over clients told me about it. And that's how I found out about the girl. We didn't know who the leak was, but eventually we figured out who it was and had to terminate them. Because whatever I was doing or whatever I came up with, within a week or two, they were actually doing the same procedure. And I found out about it because when you do training for individuals who are unemployed, they have to go check out 3 schools. And we noticed the paperwork that they were bringing in from this other school was exactly like ours. And we knew we didn't copy it from them, so they had to have copied it from us. So be very, hold these in, just keep them confidential. Don't give everybody access. Even though, as I'm going to show you, you have to have your employees sign off on having read those policies and procedures, and you have to automate your procedure so that they're up on like the website, and they just scroll through, or you do like a Zoom meeting, and then you just go through each policy and procedure, and then you have them sign off that they took the Zoom meeting or in-person meeting, or they went to the website where it's recorded and went through and sat through. But you never should hand over your main policy and procedure manuals to an employee. However, you do have to give them an employee handbook because they have to know what their rights are in terms of days off, accrued time, calling in late, calling out sick, all of those policies and procedures. From an employee's perspective, you have to give them a physical copy of it. And that doesn't mean print it. That can mean, you email them as part of their new hire package a PDF form, and make sure you password protect it. So one of these programs that will break the PDF format and turn it into a Word document, they can't change it, or it'll be difficult to change. The importance of policies and procedures. I want to read this because it's so important. Regardless of your organization's size, developing formal policies and procedures can make it run much more smoothly and efficiently. They communicate the values and the vision of the organization, ensuring employees understand exactly what is expected of them in certain situations. Because both individual and team responsibilities are clearly documented, there is no need for trial and error or micromanaging. Upon reading the workplace policies and procedures, employees should clearly understand how to approach their jobs. Formal policies and procedures save time and stress when handling HR issues. The absence of written policies results in unnecessary time and effort spent trying to decide and agree on a course of action. That could be like the supervisor or the manager. Well, what should we do? Is it really like a small issue, or is it a larger issue? If you have that policy in place for whatever that action that person took, then there is no room for discussion. There is no room for diversion. The only possible solution is to follow the policies and procedures and not deviate from them, because when you deviate from them, you actually eliminate the essence of the purpose of the policy. And if someone else in the office finds out that you deviated for this person, then that's sort of setting you up for past practice. So if they try and sue you and bring up that past practice, then why was it so enforced for this person? That could result in all kinds of things. These strict guidelines already in place. Employees simply have to follow those procedures, and managers just have to enforce the policies. Implementing these documents also improve the way an organization looks from the outside. Formal policies and procedures help to ensure your company complies with relevant regulations. They also demonstrate that the organizations are efficient, professional, and stable. This can lead to a stronger business relationship and a better public reputation. So, for example, my company, we are a state-approved private vocational school. And so we are audited annually. And not audited for financial reasons. We are audited for our policies and procedures. We have to submit on an annual basis our current policies and procedures, enrollment status, enrollment procedures, how we deal with a student that may have a complaint, a student that may want a refund, whatever the case may be. We have to have a policy in place, and those policies and procedures are looked at every year. Now, do they really look at them? No. They tell us to send them up. We send them up. I know they're not looking at these 200-300 page documents, page by page, but they just want to see that you have them in place and that they're current. And they also use that in a way to determine if they get a state complaint. They get like a person complains about my school and they file a complaint with the state. What they do now is they'll look, what they've always done is they'll look at your policies and procedures, and they look to see if you violated them. And if you violated your own procedures that you submitted, guess what happens? That person wins. I'm going to give you another example. I had a insurance claim. We had some damage to our roof in New Jersey, and water was coming in, and I filed a claim, and they basically denied the claim, saying that it was a wear and tear situation. Even though we had just had a windstorm, the flaps and all these little nails or whatever blew up, was debris on the ground and all of that. They still claimed it was wear and tear. So I got very upset. And I contacted the New Jersey Banking and Insurance Commission, which is supposed to be an agency that is customer based. They protect the customer, the consumer, and they look into and investigate if there's any wrongdoing. And I had used them before with a situation not to do with banking and insurance. It had to do with my real estate purchase. And they came in and they corrected the problem. The real estate agent was found to be in error, and it was all resolved. So I figured I would rely on these people again. Well, the guy called me up and said, look, the whole dynamic of these commissions has changed. All we do now is we take a look at the company's issued policy that they submit with the state, and all we do is try to find loopholes for which they have not followed their own policies and procedures. And so he said the only way that I could win my case is to hire an attorney, hire a architect to come out there and do some kind of $3,000-$4,000 analysis, submit to them, the insurance company, and hope that they would go ahead and pay the claim, which was not financially feasible. So the great news about this policy, which I was paying upwards of $5,000 a year, I was like, I'm getting rid of these people. I'm going to look for somebody else. And Warren Buffett, everybody write this name down, Warren Buffett. I have to get, I'll put the name up on Google Classroom. He has this insurance company. You know, everybody knows he's one of the richest men in the world, or America, whatever. He has an insurance company. I kid you not, the exact same policy with coverage and a few extra perks. I'm getting the same policy for $1,700 a year. So the moral to that story is to shop around for your insurance. Make sure you're getting the best book. Don't stay with somebody just because you've been with them. This was Oxford Insurance. No, Hartford. I'm sorry. Hartford Insurance, like supposed to be the best insurance company ever. And here's little old Warren Buffett. You know, it's probably a write-off for him. So, and then there was all kinds of extras that I got covered, like my fence and my sign outside, which when the rainstorm came, it tore down the fence and it also tore down the sign. And they said that because the fence wasn't attached to the building and neither was the sign, because it was out in the what do you call them? I can't think of what you call them, but it was sitting outside the building. They said it was detachable, so it wasn't covered. So it was a blessing in disguise that they refused. I had to pay out my own pocket to get all those repairs done, but I ended up saving going forward all of that extra money. I was paying, you know, now I'm paying less than half of what I was paying before. So,
Oh, that's great.
Policies and procedures are important on both ends. So let's get started with tonight's projects. I want to cover, this is the company that I just talked to you about that I had the 6-month contract on. They work with autism children, so that's why you see the nice colorful kind of things going on. Created a company policy, and that's a staff handbook, so let's pull that one up. All right, everybody can see this. So here is the table of contents. Let me see if I can make it a little bigger. So she had developed this in 2019, and I came in and revised it in 2020. Found so many mistakes that she had in here from a business perspective. So I updated it and made the necessary changes. These are the table of contents, all about the company, compliance and related procedures, general policies and procedures, hours of work and payroll practices. And I'm showing you actually because I ended up separating this into two different, one for employee handbook and one for operating procedures. But this is I just wanted to review like the format. You want to talk about the company, who you are, what's your mission statement. So important what your mission statement is so that your employees know exactly the vision that you have for the company. In fact, in developing her HR project, I had each one of the potential hirees actually write a mission statement for themselves for the company. What is it that you want to get from the company? What is it that you want the company to provide to you? And how would you be a great fit for the company? So there's all kinds of procedures and processes you can put into place that secure your hiring practices. You don't just give them, accept their resume, maybe have them fill out an online application, check their references, maybe do a background check, and that's it. You cannot. You have to find out where their head is. What kind of person are they? There's all kinds of apps and software out there that you can get a free trial to, and take like an aptitude, a personality test, and like take it yourself, and then they're going to send you a copy of it on the trial basis, and then you take that sample and develop your own, or Google and find one that's free. But you need to find out who the people are, and then let them submit that information to you prior to the interview, and then you can see if their body language, the way that they speak, the way that they talk, answer the questions matches what they've submitted to you initially. Because think about it, when you do your initial interview, what do you have to go on? Nothing.
Just their word.
Yep. You got nothing to go on.
That's easy cues.
Yep. And you know they're gonna be they're like the boyfriend that want, or the man that wants to marry you, or the woman that wants to marry you. We're always gonna show our best side till we get what we want. That's just human nature. We're not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's a bad thing that people do that, but that's just human nature. So I always did two things when I hired my staff, and I still do when I do 1099s. I have a personality test that I give them. I have a leadership test that I give them, and I'm gonna put that leadership quiz. It's online. I'm gonna put that up on the Google Classroom. Let me just make myself a note so I don't forget all these things I'm gonna say I'm gonna do, and then the personality and the leadership. And I'll also put up that letter of introduction. It's actually a request. And in that request, I asked the person to pretty much tell me what your vision is for the company. And they have to write at least a one-pager. So first, a couple of things happens when you do that, when you get the letter of interest from them. The letter of interest is going to tell you if they got good punctuation skills. It's going to tell you if they got good typing skills. Not typing, but grammar. Can they put the words together and make a sentence? Do they know where a comma goes versus a period? Are they making run-on sentences? Second is the document formatted? Does it look professional? Because if they initially send you something over that is so sloppy, what do you think they're going to do if they work for you? If they don't care enough about themselves and how they're portrayed, then they won't care about your company when they're portrayed, when they're representing your company. The second thing I do is I have them do some type of test. So for my company, I am a private vocational school. So what I would do is, and we teach basically the foundation of Microsoft Office and other levels of training like project management and business development and things like that. So what I would have them do is create a lesson plan for one of the hardest programs in the Microsoft Office suite, which is Microsoft Access. Because on their resume, that was one of the requirements. You had to know how to use and teach Microsoft Access. So I would take that hardest program, or maybe even Excel, and I would have them do a lesson plan, And then I would have them come in to the center and teach that lesson plan. I'd have all our students come down to the big banquet style room, and they would be given evaluation forms, and they would evaluate the performance of this person. And that's how you got hired as an instructor at the T-Bird Center. Along with those two documents, and then of course the regular the initial interview, which was at least two of my teachers and the office person. And then the second and final interview, if they recommended you, then I would have an interview with you. So those are all procedures and policies that I put in place to run my HR department effectively. And guess what? I didn't have an HR department. I had an office manager, a job placement coordinator, a receptionist, a technician that kept their computers up and running, and we had an administrator. So we didn't really have our HR person. That administrative person just kept our computer network up. The job counselor, she was also doing recruitment and job placement. So everybody had multiple functions, but nobody specifically had HR. I used all my staff to do a little bit of HR. But I had such a tight ship when it came to how my people were going to be hired, and my procedures were in place, that we rarely fell through the cracks. And guess what? It took me a couple of years to get that in place. I think I may have told you guys, or another training I was doing, I had this woman that came in with this beautiful typed resume, and she looked the part. She well dressed, well spoken, talked a good game. First day in class, she's supposed to come in and start teaching the students technology literacy. At that time, it was called PC literacy, and she didn't know how to turn the computer on. So, very important that you put those measures in place. So here is compliance and related procedures. I use this as an example because there are several sections in here, and they're so important. You don't need all the sections, but you definitely need to make sure that you have specific areas that apply to your industry and your business. Policy changes have to be documented. Employment at will in the state of New Jersey or whatever state you're in, you got to know whether you are an at-will state, meaning you can fire anybody for any reason. But I don't suggest that you ever fire anybody without reason. You always give a written warning, and then a write-up, and then maybe a suspension, and then terminate them. You have to do diligence when you're working with HR, because people can sue you. Some companies have an arbitration policy where they'll have like their HR people, try to negotiate with you, things like that. Definitely documenting your introductory period, your disability process, how and that's just the standard of the state. You don't have to, make up anything with some of these issues. Dating in the workplace, immigration, employment of minors. So all of this is pretty much standard, and it probably does not apply, but you put it in that policy because you don't know as you grow if some of these situations may come up. Reporting harassment and discrimination, how employees should complain if they don't like it, what your steps are for resolution, general policies and procedures. How are these employees classified? Are they non-exempt, exempt? You may have some 1099s that work for you. Define what 40 hours or full-time is. Is full-time 30 hours or 40 hours? Could be one or the other in today's climate. Are they going to be working virtually, or are they going to be working in-house? At the location. What if they're doing both? All of that should possibly be documented in the, not possibly, all of that should be documented in their job description. Define what your full-time employee is versus your part-time employee versus your temporary employee. And then, of course, your independent contractors. And require an employee subcontractor agreement. Don't just let somebody tell you, oh, I'm a 1099, I'll take care of my own taxes. No, absolutely not. If they are going to be a 1099 employee, they should submit to you their tax ID number. I asked my instructors to give me a copy of their trade certificate so that I could prove that they really were a business and they were really, 1099 sufficient. And you never make the check out to the person if they are a 1099 employee. It should always be made out to the company. And the way you make it out to the company is you have them give you their trade certificate. I think in Maryland they call it something else here. But it's like your license to do business under that name. But you need to have a copy of that. And if they don't want to give you a copy of it, then that means that they're probably not approved to be that. But you also, in Maryland, you can look their name up, or in New Jersey. You can go to the New Jersey business site or the Maryland business site and type in the name they gave you, and it'll tell you whether they're active or inactive. So you have to do your due diligence. You cannot have someone come work for your company and say, oh, I'm a 1099, I'll pay my own taxes, don't you worry about it, and you just believe them and go forward. That is the biggest red flag. They can hit you for back taxes, even though they took that check for 3 years without paying taxes. And now they got finally caught by the IRS because they didn't pay their taxes, or the state. Now they want to say, well, I didn't know she wasn't, I thought this was my net pay, or I this or I that. And when they say that, you just pull out your W-9, you pull out your tax, their trade certificate, and of course you'll have a contract with them. You'll have a signed contract. In that signed contract, it should state specifically that they are responsible for all of their taxes, state, federal, and otherwise, and that they are not eligible for any benefits, health insurance, unemployment, etc. That all needs to be in the contract. Every last detail. And your procedures need to say that.
I'm sorry for interrupting. You said if a 1099, don't make the check out to them, make that to the company. So I know sometimes in government when they hire contractors, the contractors will be independent of the overall contract. Isn't that's not a 1099 as well?
Well, if they're registered under their own name, then that's their registration. It could be your own name. But you just can't, I'm saying to you, don't just let them say, oh, just make it out to Trina Bird. Have proof that they are legitimate so that when you write it out to Trina Bird, because if you write it out to Trina Bird and you have no proof that that's how they filed their status,
okay,
then to the government, they're going to think that you were just in cahoots with them, writing them a check without paying taxes.
And we're liable, okay.
Right. So you make sure that whatever they say they are and how they're operating as a 1099, you need the proof of it.
Okay, you need their business license, copy of business license and stuff.
Right. Which could be their name. Like it could be Trina Bird and Associates.
Okay.
But don't write that check out to say Trina Bird. It needs to be written out Trina Bird and Associates.
Okay, thank you.
Also document, like I said, the subcontractor agreements, professional liability. I had all my instructors become bonded. An educational insurance bond is $100 a year for the person if they have decent credit. And it's up to, I think that's for $10,000. You can also require that they have workers' comp. So if they get hurt on your premises or somewhere where you sent them, they have their own workers' comp policy. That is another document that you make them give you a copy of and even maybe list you on it. So important. So important. If you go to, let's say Kai, he would go and do a wedding, and that person that was his helper fell and broke their leg. he is under Kai's his contract, because I'm sure he listed it under the contract that he listed that he did business with the person that's having the wedding. Don't go there and that person doesn't have their own workers' comp that works for you. Especially, if they're an independent contractor. If they're an employee, obviously they'll be under your workers' comp. But if they are an independent contractor, they need to get their own workers' comp. And workers' comp is cheap. It's like $200 or $300 a year. And if they want to work for you, they gotta have it. They gotta be bonded. There's such a thing called educational bond. That's required in New Jersey. I don't know about Maryland, but in New Jersey, it's required so that if I get a contract to train a $10,000 contract to train 10 people, and for some reason they pay me and I don't show up, they can sue my educational training bond, and get reimbursed. That's what that concept. Same like a construction contract. 1099, make them do a non-compete policy. Make sure that, they don't, for any reason, jeopardize your business or cause you any delay in your business, and they don't go work for your contract, your competition within a year's time, 2 years, whatever you want to make it. You can have an employee where there are no employees or personal relationships can be brought into the business. Non-disclosure policies for confidential information. Your ability to protect anything that they would create under their company. And see here, this was like, yeah, this is the old copy. Like, this client, she bought this, or somebody gave it to her, and here's the other company's name. Something like this, if you're using a template, please have someone else look at it. Because imagine you're giving this out, and then they look, it says one name at the top and another name at the bottom. That's just, it's just unprofessional. Media increase. Some of these things, you don't have to maintain. I'm going to be sending you in this, all of these. These will be templates you'll be getting. And so you just take out what you want. I'm just kind of quickly going through them. Background checks, reference checks. Depending on your industry, like an ABA company, you're working with children, you have to do background checks and reference checks, and they're done every year. So you have to, document that in their books, in your employee guide, saying that's exactly what is required of them, so that they're not dumbfounded when it comes. The next section of your policy and procedure manual should talk about the hours of work and payroll practices. Billable versus non-billable if you're a 1099. What timesheets are required, overtime, your breaks, payroll deductions, wage garnishments, direct deposit. These are all policies and procedures that should be in place. And notice too, they're little short, blurbs. They're little paragraphs. But they just say specifically what it is that you expect and what your policy is in terms of the company. Code of conduct, what your procedure is on absences and tardiness. Discipline. This was highlighted. Failure to successfully complete the following. Inadequate data collection. This was a responsibility of one of the main main positions in the company. So this was highlighted. Dress code. Here she was giving an example of what was appropriate and what wasn't. Health and illness. If you get sick, what do you do? How do you call? What's the procedure? Doctor's note, all that. Safety first. Alcohol and drug policy. Internet and email, computer policy. Many of these technicians that worked, here's another where it's a big mistake there, another company. The company email policies and procedures need to be adhered to, and I'm going to show you the backup documents that go with the internet and email policies. in addition to mentioning what they are in the regular employee manual. Social media policy. I had I do not befriend my clients. So I don't, if you hire me as your business consultant, I don't become your friend on social media. And the reason I don't do that is because if the relationship doesn't work, you don't have an opportunity to, put anything out on my Facebook page, and I don't have an opportunity to put anything out on your Facebook page. And it's strictly business, so I don't mix the two at all. And I highly recommend that you don't either. Now, a company could give you a letter of referral or recommendation. Things like that are good. Satisfied customer, satisfied client, something like that, yes. But anything other than that, no. You don't want to mix your social media with any. You want to keep it strictly about your business. Your cell phone policy. Are they able to use their cell phone for your business activities? Be clear about how you're handling that. You don't want them coming back and say, oh, I use my cell phone between this hour and that hour, and I want you to reimburse me. And that policy and procedure was never agreed upon between the two of you. So, especially with today's mobile world, if they're taking calls on the road, you may set a policy up where you'll give them 33% of their bill. But you have to have something in place in order to you have to figure out what that's going to be, because nobody gives you a phone these days. No companies do that anymore. They used to provide you with a company issue cell phone, but they don't do that now. The standard now is to give you a certain percentage of your phone bill. Electronic and portable devices. If you issue tablets, things like that, what is the policy? When do they have to return it? What if it's damaged? What do they have? What do you do when it's damaged? How much is it valued at? Let them know up front when it's actually issued how much they will have to pay if it's broken, stolen, or lost. Email communication policies. If you don't want someone sending out email representing the company without your approval, you got to say that in your policy guide. What happens with inclement weather? Do the people come in? Well, that's so funny now. We're all doing everything virtual, so we can't take snow days. We can't take days off because the weather's bad. But then again, too, if the weather is bad and the internet's down, then you can. Gifts, gratuities. If you're working for funded agencies, my team was always told they could not accept any gifts from any of the students or any of the job counselors, because that would be implied as being partial to a vendor. However, my students always gave the teachers, including myself, little trinkets to say thank you when the class was over. And I kind of let that slide, but the reality of it is that you really have to be very careful about that, because it can come back to haunt you. Client interactions. What do you expect from your clients? What if they do something that you don't like? Well, I'm going to show you a parent guide that I developed for this company, specifically for the clients, which were the parents, even though it was the kids. The client was the parent representing the kid. How do you evaluate your performance? This was a tough thing with this client. She was about a year in and hadn't done any annual evaluations. No 60-day, no 90-day, no any kind of evaluations. And some of the staff was starting to ask for a raise. They wanted to make more money. And her answer was, well, we can't do it right now, or you can't run a professional business and not have a performance evaluation process in place. It could be whatever you want, but it has to be in place and you have to adhere to it. And you should always evaluate people after at least a year. I definitely recommend 30, 60, 90. And adhere to it. Don't deviate from your regulations and rules because, your heart is saying, well, let them go another 30 days. No, if they're not doing what they're supposed to do in the first 30 days, guess what they're not going to do in the next 30 days or the next 30 days after that. So adhere to your own procedures, but evaluate people. What if they get through the 90 days and everything's fine, and then 6 months in, they start to miss time and they're late and they're missing appointments and, they cussed out one of your customers or something crazy. You got to write them up right then and there and follow your procedures for incident reports, write-ups, insubordination, all those kinds of things that have to be in place. And I know this sounds like and looks like a lot of work, it is, but once you get it set up, it is the roadmap to your success. Can't tell you it any differently. Staff training. Always implement some type of training for your staff in lieu of the way things are changing so rapidly with technology. Don't assume and don't let your employees fend for themselves in learning how to use a new version of the software that you're using or the new apps that you're using. Designate someone or yourself to do at least, I would say at least every 90 days, a training day. And you bring your whole team in or you do a Zoom after hours. You give them a training rate. So let's say they're upwards of $15, $20, $30 an hour, whatever. When they take on the Zoom training, it's a dedicated time that you do training for the company every 3 months, just to make sure everybody's on the same page, maybe every 6 months, however it best fits for your company. And you let them know, you send them out a memo telling them that they are required to attend. They will be paid. I used to always do, luncheon. I would always do a luncheon, feed them, and I would pay them the training rate. Now, the training rate was always going to be like $1 or so over minimum wage. But when I was when I had employees back in the day, I think the $10 was the minimum wage, something like that. So we paid them 12, and we fed them lunch, so they were happy. They got extra pay in their check. We were never 40 hours, so it wasn't overtime. We were always a 30-hour week. So this time they would get an extra 6 hours or something like that. And then we would feed them, of course, have a continental breakfast, and then we would have lunch, and then an afternoon snack. It was always a full day of training, and I would have them sign off that they actually did the training. I would have a test at the end. So whatever I was teaching them, I ensured that they learned it. And then I would give them a certificate at the end of the training to certify that they had completed that training. It could have been leadership. It could have been revisions to the curriculum. It could have been the new state certifications that we had to implement, processes, whatever. But you have to set aside that training. If it's not every 6 months, then you do it once a year just because. You want them to keep track. Something's changed in that year. Everybody knows about it, and they may even be implementing it, but they were never officially trained to do it, and that's when you do that. Any questions so far? Everybody feeling this?
Yeah, for me,
Yeah.
different people. Since I'm independent, and the people that I generally use will be independent as well.
Okay. So I guess your question is, if they're independent contracts, do you still want to train them? Yes.
I don't want to train them, but they need to come in already knowing their craft.
No. I mean enhancements to your business. Yeah, they need to know what they need to know to do the job. Yeah, I'm not saying train them to do the job. Just train them on the enhancements that you've made. Like they may have started out maybe just doing Microsoft. Let's just say for my company, I had them be a Microsoft Office trainer, and now I got them doing job skills. Well, in order to enhance that job and learn them, I'm going to train them to do it.
Yeah. I
That
want
kind.
to train on the other part. Yes.
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And hire some people I know.
Yep. I think, yeah, telecommuting and all that work from home. Make sure that's specific. Make sure that policy says what they're going to be doing, when they're going to be doing it, and also what software you're going to be using to track them. So my students and my instructors, they use a program called Clockify. And that's where you log in when you begin a task and you log out when you're done the task. And they have to submit their weekly report attached to their timesheet.
What was the name of that?
Clockify, CLOCIKY.com. It's totally free, and it has a paid version that does invoicing and time tracking, but it's a great tool for you to use internally for your team if they work from home, and that part of it is totally free. No trial period, 100% free.
I use it for me when I'm doing jobs for people.
Mm-hmm. It's a cool program. Confidentiality, gotta have this in place. Whatever you deem confidential, you gotta detail it, and you make them sign off on it. Also, one of the changes that I made to this, and I specifically used this old version of the manual, because I started working in January for her, and I saved it as it was before I just was actually in a just looking through it, because the new version has been updated, and I'm not sharing any confidential information. But areas where they were really specifically important, I didn't have them sign at the end of the manual sign-off sheet. I put places for them to initial and sign throughout each one of the sections. Separation of employment. Let's see, I went down to, yeah. Reporting injuries. I'm sorry about that. Separation of employment, termination, procedures on how to terminate, deadlines as to when they have to turn in any company issued documents, including a badge, including equipment, uniforms, whatever you've given them, you need to get it back. Because you cannot hold their paycheck in lieu of getting these things returned. It is against the law. So if they walk off with a $3,000 laptop, if they come to pick their check up in 2 weeks and don't have that laptop, you can't keep that check. So put in your measures and your procedures. Before you get ready to turn them, fire them, you say, look, guys, everybody bring their laptops in. We're getting them serviced. We'll have them back to you on Monday. And whoever don't get theirs back, know they about to be fired. Have an exit interview. You should have an exit interview with employees and clients. If you had a client, I don't care if you had them for 2 days, and they decide they don't want to use you, you have to put together some type of evaluation that you send out to them or call them on the phone. Find out why they don't want to do business with you anymore and why the person doesn't want to work for you anymore. You can't just brush it off like, oh, I don't care. They didn't make it past 90 days, so who cares? Yes, you do need to care. It could be you being the problem, and you need to fix it if it is you. Or it could be an employee that you don't even suspect is sabotaging you. You have to know the level of running your business and what is going on the ground floor. And that should be you making that call to find out why the person left. That should be you finding out why your client no longer wants to do business with you. They were so excited they signed on. 2 days later, they're leaving. Why? You have to know these things. Your policies and procedures should reflect it. So in the event that you don't have time to call, you can get your highest level person to make the call and follow that detailed written procedure. Vacation, any accrued hours if you're given anything like that, any benefits, what their rehire status may or may not be. Employee benefits, if you're having a benefits package, just let them know how that all works. Again, under benefits, if it's 1099, you'd have your workers' compensation. You could also have them become bonded. depending on your type of business. That's just an extra precautionary measure. Oh, when you get them to do their workers' comp and the bonding, make sure that you are listed on the policy. Don't just get the policy and put it in the file folder and don't look at it. Read it. Make sure you're listed. Because if you have to go back and you got to sue that insurance policy, which is exactly what workers' comp and a bond is, if you're not listed, you got no claim. If you're not taking taxes out, list this anyway. You're 1099. If you're all 1099, you don't have any regular employees. Inside that employee manual, it'll say you're responsible for your Social Security benefits. You're responsible for your insurance. You're responsible for all of the tax deductions that normally would fall under a normal W-4 employee. You are not a W-4. You are a 1099. When I set you up in QuickBooks, that's how you're going to roll. I need your trade certificate, your business license, your tax ID number. I need all of that in place before you step foot on the premises, before you get your first contract, and definitely before you issue that first check. And if you don't have time to do it, then they just can't start. Employee leave of absence, time off, be very specific. Are you going to pay them for time off? Do you pay them for vacation days? Do you pay them for sick leave? Do you pay them for bereavement? Any of those benefits that you're offering that are separate from health insurance benefits. Some companies don't provide health insurance companies because other people, people have their own health insurance through whatever. But you can also have a benefits package, which is just accrued time. What we did with my company from beginning, I would close the school down July 1st or whatever that would be, the whole week of July 4th, that it would be closed. I'm sorry. Let's go back. I would close it for Easter week off. I would close it for July 4th week. It was a week. I would close between Christmas and New Year's. That was 3 weeks. In the first year, you got the 1 week. The second year with me, you got the 2 weeks. The third year, you got the 3 weeks. Anything after 3 weeks, you would get 3 years, you would get a bonus. And I always do a holiday party. And I always took them out once a month. I would always take them out to it was a big thing back then, Outback, or one of those steak places. We would always take them out at least once a month. And believe it or not, we had about 10 or 15 employees because we had 4 locations. And they would all come down and we'd go out and eat. Bill would run us $100, $150. You try to do that now, it's $500. Family leave. We talked about workers' comp, jury duty, all of that. All of that. Any of these samples that I've gone over, you can Google it or you can pull it right from this sample that I'm going to send you. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of more quick samples and then we're going to finally be out on time for a change. This is more like the client manual that I made up for this company. Because the client was the parent. So I created a parent procedure guide. Make your stuff colorful. Make it match whatever your industry is. This is autism, and these are all the colors for autism. No matter what. They have different shapes and logos, but they all have those same colors. Welcome letter about the company, company information, why choose that company, new parent procedures, frequently asked questions. And then all of this detail went in. I developed all this from scratch for her. This is my building in New Jersey. It was bigger than that. This was how she renovated it. So I put that in there. I just made it very personable. Put a couple of websites in there where her website, because it was a digital document sent over. Gave her some parent websites that she could go to assist her with the services rendered. Always helpful to give them additional information in these kinds of guides, because the more information a parent has or a client has to make good decisions about your service or your product, the better it is for you. Separation of services. Those procedures, frequently asked questions. This took a lot of time to develop. And then the signature page. And we wanted to know what kind of document computer stuff they had, so we could be able to work with them. Here's a copy of the job description. Come on. Job descriptions just can't be no little one page. You got to talk, you got to be very professional and descriptive. The department, who they report to, the position type, availability. A lot of this stuff was missing. So I had to go in and make these corrections to, at least I had to do it to all the job descriptions, because they just were not meeting my standard. The skills and all that I had to leave, because I really didn't know the industry as well as they did, but I needed to make sure that the format was safe. The consistency, see these bullets here, and then we got these. You want to just stay consistent with your documents. And you never want to say commensurate with experience. Always give a starting salary so the person has an idea where you are at least going to start and your maximum. And somewhere in between you're going to meet, depending on their experience. So I made that modification. I also developed an access form once you get employed. Come on. Employee name and what I'm giving you access to. Software, insurance codes to do your job, employee HR access, documenting when you came on board, and using the same form to, under here would be on board, over in this column would be removed, signature there, on board, signature there, terminated. That would be done by the office administration. This is a sample of the format for staff email address and procedure. When I do procedures, I like putting screenshots in, so there's no reason why you can't follow it. Takes some time, but it's worth it. Staff initials, date, set up their email address, their password, and this is the policy. Appropriate use, company property. Now that was a policy manual that I just went over with you guys. This is the procedure that matches that policy for email. We discussed that. So again, this is the actual procedure. When I went over it in that other guide that was so long, that talked about the email policy. This is step-by-step procedure. Initials, tell them how to get into it. They sign off on all of it, and they have access to it. This is acknowledgement that they received that policy and procedure manual. You have them sign off on it. This is the hiring procedure. Step by step, what we do, what I set up when I came on board. Letter of interest, employment application, salary request form, background check, upward mobility information form, and request for a one-page document specifically indicating how you vision growing the company in alignment with applicants' current credentials and experience as outlined in the resume. That's that guy I was talking about. So now you got something to go on. You're going to get this document, a one-page document, and you're going to get to know a little bit more about them. And if that meets the smell test, then you go ahead and set up the interview and start to run the background checks and start to do whatever it is that you got to do for them. That person that sends you a little 1-paragraph blog, nah. The person that sends you a 5-page, I don't know, maybe so, maybe not. They may just be too long-winded. They may take too much time to do any task you give them. But it depends on the department, what they're going to be doing. It may need that detailed elaboration. I don't know when, but it may. I separated everything. So upon receiving all the documents back from you, we'll send you an interview letter. Set up the interview letter. At this time, you'll get your 3 letters of references. And the interview was online. And I wanted the letter of references before I actually did the interview with you. Which, to me, letters of references are just ridiculous. You're not going to go to anyone that's not going to say something great about you. But you got to read those letters of references to see if the underlining statements kind of match that letter, that 1-page document indicating how they're going to grow the company. See if all those ideas that they put in there line up with what people are saying about them. Again, you got another tool to find out who they really are. Because if you go in with just a resume and just the interview, you got nothing to go on. Nothing to compare to, I should say. Once you pass that test, then you do the offer letter and set up that email process. Another big thing that I'm big on is I set up these checklists because these people kept forgetting steps to do. So I said, well, let me put together a checklist. So all you got to do now is just check it off as you go. And that's good because checklists work really good in terms of your policies and your procedures because they don't have to think about it. They just read the item, check it off, and do it. Or do it, and then check it off. So checklists are important. I have checklists for a lot of things with my clients. You can see here where their upward mobility, the talent LMS, their employee badge, the company property forum. All these things I made up for her so that they could follow because I'm coming in and I'm revamping everything. And so I didn't want to be put in a position where I'm telling them every single week what to do. So I made this checklist. So all you got to do is check it off and do it. It saves me time as the consultant and it saves you time as the employer because time is money. Onboarding, all that. Because I just set it all up and I initially sent it out and whoever I thought was a good fit, I sent them over to the HR manager, which was the office manager, and then she did all these things. But she would always forget to do some things, so that's why I made this checklist up for her. Did the same thing for termination, so you know exactly what you got to do for termination. The letter of termination, getting the badge back and the inventory back, have them sign off that they will no longer communicate with the parent, contact the parent, let the parent know that they're not no longer working with the company, outboarding, get them out of ADP, get them out the operational workbook that they used, take back all company access, and remove them from any of the access to the building. Some of them had keys, some of them had keys to their clients' houses, all that. Document the reason for termination and add to their digital folder, print a hard copy, and put it in the folder. Termination procedure that matched that checkoff list. So here we are. And I even gave them a sample of what the termination letter should say. And I told them what to put in the termination letter. Because they had terminated somebody just as I got there. And the girl sued them and won. So I had to do that training to make sure that they knew how to do a termination letter. And how to, terminate the person correctly. All these things have to be in place. What you don't want to do is find out the hard way through a lawsuit or now you got to pay unemployment benefits because you messed up. And that girl ended up getting unemployment. If she would have listened to what I told her, she would have never got unemployment because she was insubordinate. But she wanted to hail her authority, and it ended up costing her money. That's about it. I'm going to send you over all of these things that I went through. Send over the policy. I'm sorry, the PowerPoint presentation. And all of these document samples are in this list that I'm going to put up on Google Classroom. I also have a slide here that tells you how to develop your policies and procedures for your company. When creating a policy or procedure for your company, start by reviewing the mission statement, vision, and values. You saw this statement at least 3 times in this presentation. And why is it so important? People need to understand what your mission statement is, your vision, and your values, so that it's always out there. So that, a lot of people spend a lot of time on these slogans and these little jingle. No, what's important is the mission statement, the vision, and the values. So anybody coming to work for you, any clients doing business with you, they know who you are and what you stand for. And so it's no shock when you terminate them as a client or you terminate them as an employee, because they violated that mission statement, that vision, and those values. Begin to write your policies based on the mission statement, vision, and values, beginning with. See how I put that in there? I'm just like plugging it away for you. First thing you want to do is set out the purpose of the policy, explain why the policy is developed, list who the policy applies to, set out what is acceptable or unacceptable behavior, set out the consequences for not complying to the policy, provide a date when the policy was developed or updated, and then create the procedure to do it. Create the procedure to do it. And I'm going to give you the tool to do that. This document here here's the table of contents. Everything I just went over in that sample, this is what is going to be most valuable to you. Look, it's a checklist. So your homework assignment is to go through this and check off. It's, I think, 30 pages. Yep, 30 pages exactly. Are you going to have all this? No. But what this does is it streamlines everything down to what you need and what, just check off what you need. You don't even bother to do no. Just check off the things that you need. And that's how you can start to build your policies and procedures. And as I promised, this file I'm going to go ahead and give you guys so that you can do them. ADP is the they are just like top of the line. And that's where I got all these from. I don't mind giving them to you. So all of those, I wouldn't say everything that's in that checklist is you're going to find in this list, but you'll get something close to it. So there will be no reason why, if I check in with you 6 months from now, you don't have your policies and procedures in place. Number 2, you will not be able to do this in a quick manner. And you will piecemeal it. But you have to definitely sit down and begin the process. Make the first quarter of next year your completion date. Plan out what it is that you have to get done and start working on it. Any questions? That's your homework. Complete your weekly review report and your policy and procedure checklist. Q&A. Don't tell me I put all you to sleep.
No, I always have, well,
Everything.
yeah, no. I think that list is going to be interesting, though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking I don't have any questions now, but I might as I go through the list later on.
Okay, sure. Sure.
Demetrius, it's Kai. I had a chance to get on real quick.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you got in. I recorded for you though. I'll
Thank
send
you.
it out to everybody though.
Thank you. The quick question I had was when you mentioned about how you put a position up, let somebody know like the starting range or whatever, like as far as the salary or whatnot. But I'm noticing like there are other positions out there that some companies are doing where they don't really do that nowadays. So I guess that says what negotiable or is according to like your experience and all that kind of stuff. So I was just wondering why why.
Oh, the reason I said that is because if you leave it like that, then you'll get somebody that may be looking for $120,000 a year. I mean, why waste my time or your time? I'm not paying that. That's my reason for saying that.
Okay.
Anybody that's looking to, if you're beneath their what they're going to accept, they'll see it right away. Now, bigger companies that will be paying that 120, yeah, I would leave it off if it was me. But if I'm looking to pay somebody, $20, $30 an hour, I want them to know it's between $20 and $30 an hour. So if you want 50, don't even bother me and I won't bother you.
Okay, makes sense.
Now, if you're planning to go up to 50, then make it 50. But if you're not, and then you got to also think about it today. People that used to get $50 an hour are not making that. So they may, well, at least I'll get half the money. It'll be worth my investment to check them out because they're somewhere close to what I, could make. And you got a lot of people that think, well, you know what? I'll show them and I'll prove them in 90 days. They'll see my value and my worth, and then they may raise me.
Okay.
Any other questions? Alrighty. Those of you who haven't turned in your homework to me, and those of you who have, please get it to me. I'll be sending out updates on what you have sent me. By the way, those who have, everything looks really, really good. I didn't see any major issues, so I'll be sending the packets back to you. Find everything I promised on Google Classroom. Probably, this is late now. Probably this time tomorrow I'll have everything uploaded, and I will definitely. I think I already did put the checklist up, so you can already start working on that. But all of these documents, I'll have to make sure that I don't have any confidential information in some of them before I upload them. So, but I'll put them all up there, so you got great samples to go by. And I look forward to seeing your results. No comments? Anybody want to comment? I forgot to do my poll. I'm gonna make sure I had a poll ready for next week so I can see if you guys. I can just hit the poll button and you'll be able to respond. If it was beneficial.
Earlier.
Yes.
When you were talking about the procedures and the policy for your setting up, because if your company is private, do you need to put anything in there about nepotism, or that's your call because you're the owner of the company?
That's your call because you're the owner of the company. Okay. But I highly recommend, excuse me, like this client that I previewed. This is her setup in the office. Her sister was the office manager. Her husband's niece was the trainer for the medical billing stuff. That niece's husband was a technician. His cousin and her wife, it was just all a family affair. Now, in a lot of cases, that's fine. If you want it to be a family-oriented based, kind of business, it's really your choice. Who am I to say what you should and shouldn't do? But just like anything else, you're going to have problems in the business that need to be resolved, and people don't want to lose important family relationships when it comes to, your business. And it is very difficult to tell family members what to do and get the same type of respect. I don't want to call it respect, but get the same type of results that you would from a stranger. Because I don't care how dedicated they are to you, that family thing is going to pop his head up.
Interfere, yep.
No matter how much you love each other. I mean, when I first started out, Rick and I, we started out with a paper route. We had like 1,500 customers. We had everybody in the family. This was in the we were like 20 no, we were like 25, 26 because my son was born, and we needed extra little money because we had just had my son. And so we did the paper. Rick was like, oh, he had a paper route when he was a kid, so he's like, oh, we could do this. You get up a couple hours in the morning, you're done, take your shower, go to work. Okay, cool. So on Saturday and Sundays, with the papers being so big, we had all the family members, and we paid them all like $25, and it took longer because it was a big paper and all that on Sunday. And that went really, really well. Everybody got paid. We went on about, everybody was good. We go out to breakfast, everything. When we went from that to our computer business, when we had a grocery store, that worked out really good too. When we got to the computer business part, oh man, we started having, it went from corporate, so we, was more of a laid back environment. Every one of them I fired. Every one of them. I even fired my mother. Does that sound mean? No. But I used to hire her back. Well, actually, you know what? I think she quit more than I fired her.
Because she knew you was going to fire.
Yeah. And she would come right back. My mom was just, she was always protective of me. So I had to fire her because she was always, she would just make everything worse because she just would call it like she saw it. You got to be diplomatic in business. You can't just cuss out the students because they did something wrong. You got to let them, do their own thing, and then you just control it. So a couple of times I fired her. A couple of times she quit. She came back. She was there until we went 100% online. And she still does some things for the company that I need because she's still in Jersey and I'm here. But I fired both my sisters. Had to. Because they were, well, Trina, I should be able to do this. And I'm the one that tells you what you should be able to do. So those things come up. If you get a family member that's in it like 1,000% like you are, hold on to them.
Okay.
But one thing I did, you do find with family, they are always going to be loyal to you. You don't have to worry about them robbing you and stealing from you. But then again, maybe that's what that is when they, oh, I'll be in late tomorrow, or I got to leave early. That was my biggest problem with my two sisters. They always had something to do when they were supposed to be at work.
Just taking you for granted.
Yep. Yep. We come to work one day, my sister's outside doing arts and crafts on the concrete in front of the building. Spray paint all over the front parking lot. We were like livid. And she didn't understand why we were upset. So, you just gotta make good decisions. Everyone's gonna make mistakes in business. You learn from them, you grow from them, and you just don't repeat them. That would be my philosophy for business. And everything happens for a reason. I have learned in business, since I've been in business technically since 1988, everything that I was hoping to get and I didn't get and was upset that I didn't get, 90% of it, I'm so glad it didn't happen. It was God's way of protecting me and the business. So you got to weigh everything out. You got to look at everything for what it really is and not the excitement of it. All righty. Any closing comments?
Thank you. This is good.
Yes, thank you. And this is Stephanie. I want to make sure that I'm added to the
Oh yeah, I did say that. Yep, let's go there.
Okay, yes.
I want everybody to stay on so I can make sure.
Thank you, I'm still here.
I'm sorry? Oh, Melissa.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Melissa. That's my day student. She is committed because she's got a lot of homework. Both classes. Thank you, Melissa.
Melissa. You're not alone.
I thought I had that open. Let me get to the right place. Okay. Let's go to people. All right, Stephanie. I don't see you. Wrapped wrapped in one? You don't have the dots
Right.
either.
That's Casbywill at yahoo.com.
Say it again. Oh, Scasby. Okay.
After one is me, Lynette.
Yeah. Do you have Stephanie, do you have a Gmail?
Yes, I do, but I don't think you have it. I can send it over to you.
Okay, you can give it to me now and I'll go ahead and add you.
Okay. You want one SWEET
SWEET
step
step.
at gmail.com.
All right, I just sent your invitation.
Okay.
And wrapped in one, you've been invited, but you haven't responded.
I will today.
Let me know if you don't, if you, let me see if I can send it to you again.
Yeah, and then I'll respond now.
All right, wrapped. There you go. I just invited you again.
Simba, what you got going on, brother? Oh.
I wonder what he had on going on too.
He over here scratching on the couch, and I'm trying to see.
Melissa's there, Kaya's there. Let's see. Blaze, yeah. Wendy, where's yours? Wendy Salters?
Yes, I saw you sent me the invitation twice, and I accepted it twice.
Oh yeah, you in. I'm sorry, you got the 3 dots. Yep. You're in. I'm
Okay.
sorry. Okay. All right. Looks like everybody's in. And Denise Dixon, she's still doing the class, right, Lynette?
Yeah, she's not on tonight. I texted her earlier. She's not on tonight.
Okay. All right, so everybody's good. If for
And
some
I invited, I see you had Cheryl Nelson there. I invited her. She had to work today, so she couldn't join, but I know she planned on joining us.
All right, so I will invite her again. Just tell her to what was it, Cheryl Nelson.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know what? Caps. I guess it should be already. Oh, Cheryl. I spelled it wrong. No, Nelson 4 at Gmail. There we go. All right, I sent hers out again too. All right. Anybody else see anybody else on the list? Info DK Dixon Publishing. All right. Okay.
If you send her a link, I'll tell her to make sure that she accepts.
Who's that?
Dixon Publishing.
Dixon. Okay.
I'll tell her to make sure she accepts it.
Oh yeah, she's the publisher. She was on the week before last. Yeah. Okay. All right, I got attendance. All right, so we're good and we're on time today, finally. So, if no one else has any questions, I will see you next week. Email me if you have any questions. But give me tomorrow to put all those documents up on, and it'll be here. See where we have week 3? I have the policy and procedure checklist already there.